Thank you, Master Ji, for that welcome. If I can add my apology to all of you again. We had a wonderful program at Toko Primary, Sanatan Primary School. It was to commemorate Girmit Day, as well as to commemorate the Founders Day, which was perhaps a very significant event for the school. It follows on from the very historical significance declaration of Girmit Day as a public holiday, restoration of Ratu Selala Sukuna Day, and it's all about shared leadership and shared vision for our country. Just very quickly, if I can give you an update as to why I'm here. This is the 5th month that we are in government. We very quickly and very early stated the philosophy for our governance in this country and as part of the government strategy. And that philosophy is about consultation, dialogue, working together, and making sure that we engage the community at all levels. We started by making sure that we bring in confidence, not only to our investors, to our business community, but also to our people generally, what government's intention is and to how we can look after them. So we started very early by allocating about $50 million to ensure, this is just before the school opened. Normally when governments come into power new, they don't do that. But for us, it's not about elections, it's about helping the people. So we allocated $50 million, and out of that we paid $200 each to every student from preschool right up to high school. A total of about 214,000 students were helped just before the school opened. And we hope to continue that in the next budget. We also said very clearly that we will consult widely, and we started by holding one of the most successful economic summit, which was attended by more than 500 people. We had to stop hundreds of others, who wanted to come. And I also realized that a lot of the complaints came from the West, that people from the West, the business community and other representatives were not able to attend the summit. So we are providing this opportunity. And from Tuesday, we've had some very successful consultations in Singatoka, in Nandi, in Lotoka yesterday, and all different groups, farmers, market vendors, NGOs, business people, civil servants, teachers. So a wide cross-section of the people have been attending our consultations. The government has articulated very clearly, and we intentionally do that because we want to tell the people very honestly, very clearly, in an open, transparent manner, where we are in terms of the economy, where we are in terms of our debt level, where we are in terms of our infrastructure. So we have laid that information very clearly. And we have adopted an approach. For example, when we organized the economic summit, we laid down a budget very clearly. We told the people, this is what we're going to spend, and this is what we're going to look for as sponsorship. We did that for the Girmit budget, Ratu Sukuna budget. This is probably the first time a government that you've seen after 15 years which lays out the intention, the plan, the expenditure in the public, for the public to, and we cop up criticisms. People have different views. Some people said we shouldn't spend 500,000. We haven't spent 500,000 on Girmit. In fact, it's much less. We spent out of a budget of 360,000, just over 115,000 for summit. But we let the people, and this is what our philosophy is. We want to be open, transparent. And we're not daunted by criticisms or distracted by criticisms, however and whenever it comes through. We appointed a fiscal review committee which has done a draft report which will be released soon. That committee is made up of experts which look at expenditure, revenue, tax policies, and what government ought to do or not to do. It depends on us at the end of the day. So we are formulating the budget now. We are in the process of compiling the budget. The budget will be delivered on Friday, 30th of June, during the day, not in the night, at 10 a.m. And when we say 10, it will be at 10. So you can expect the budget to be delivered on the 30th at 10 o'clock in Parliament. What we have before us is a level of debt that we have to address. It's there. It can't be, there's no point talking about now. We have said what the previous government did, that's it, that's history. Now we are in government, we are telling you this is the level of debt, this is what we have to do. So three essentials that we will need to consider. One, we will have a fiscal consolidation strategy. That means that we have to be conscious of our debt level. We have to be conscious of our additional borrowing. We may still have to borrow some more, depending on where we are, what is our need for infrastructure, such as water, health, and you all know the state of our health infrastructure. You all know the state of our water infrastructure. You all know the state of our road infrastructure, having spent millions of dollars on some of those over the years. So we have to deal with that. And for that we need funding. So that's one part of the equation. We're looking at the debt. What are the components of the debt? How much we have to pay as repayments from next year? How can we build that in terms of our borrowing plan for future? And then we'll have to look at the revenue that we need to collect. And then we'll have to look at the expenditure. So in this budget, what I can tell you is that we are going to put some additional revenue measures, but we will also spend almost all of it because we feel that there is a need to spend as well. The good news is this, that the economy is recovering very well. In fact, there is a sense of confidence, there is a sense of freedom, there is some sense of exuberance as well about what people want to do. And what we've had in the last 5 months is a lot of interest, not only from local investors, foreign investors, new investors, and governments and international organizations. The amount of willingness that we have seen from our partners, whether it's the US, whether it's Australia, whether it's New Zealand, whether it's India. The Indian government has just recently announced with our Honorable Prime Minister in Papua New Guinea to build a 100-bed super specialty hospital in Fiji. And that hospital, as it is called, super specialty, to provide a level of tertiary care that people right now have to go overseas. It will be provided by the Indian government. And amongst the many things that we are seeing coming through is just showing us how much confidence that the international community has in the leadership of the Honorable Prime Minister Sitiveni Rabuka and the government as a whole. So those are very positive things. Our tourism recovery is almost 100%. It was not expected. We were hoping that it would be next year, but by the end of the year, it's almost expected to have recovered by almost more than 100%. The remittances are very strong. The interest in Fiji is at an all-time high, to invest, to engage. So these are positive news. However, we have some serious challenges with us. We have the challenge of fixing our water infrastructure. fixing our road infrastructure, fixing our health infrastructure, and fixing our agriculture infrastructure, sugar, non-sugar agriculture. Plus, we have to make sure that we look after our people, because people are still transitioning from loss of income, loss of jobs after COVID. So we have to continue to look after the people. And let me just repeat this as I've done in various consultations, which already has been covered in the news media. All these rumors, false rumors, lies, malicious propaganda, which we saw before the election, continuing after the election, that suddenly this government is going to take away people's social welfare, the students will have to start paying fees, nobody is going to get scholarships. These are rumors which are false, malicious, and are outright lies by those who feel that they could continue and fool the people. None of that is happening. In fact, I said in a number of places, in fact, if anything, we are likely to increase social welfare for different categories of our people. Yeah. We are looking at how to support the sugar industry. Final thing that I want to say before I open up. We are not going to solve every problem tomorrow, in the next 4 months or 5 months or 6 months or even a year. The debt level is high. To bring debt level down to a reasonable debt to GDP ratio will take maybe 10 to 15 years. But what we want to do in this budget is to tread a fine line, create a fine balance so that we do not disrupt the growth. We provide enough resources. We do not let people suffer. We provide enough resources for people to continue with the support that we have given, and improve the business environment. And the way we want to do is to make you people free, make you confident, because confidence is very important. This is not a government which is going to be vindictive, which is going to tell you off, which is going to stop you from talking. And we've done some important things. We've freed the media. The media people are here. They can ask questions. They don't get telling off from us. They have a job to do. We realize one last challenge that we have is the loss of skills, labor. A lot of businesses, and we are addressing that. We provided some money for quick competency-based training, for technical education. The technical education environment is a disaster in this country. Technical colleges that were set up, which were running before in various schools very well. There was a pathway. That was disrupted. They set up technical colleges, poured in more than $20 million, went down the drain. None of them is working. We are trying to restore that so that we can train people. We have just decided in Cabinet that all those Fiji citizens, whether you are registered in the Bolanikaumbula or you are a descendant of the Girmitia or any other community, if you are overseas, you don't have a Fiji passport, you've adopted another country, you want to come back to Fiji, you don't need a permit anymore. You can come back and live here. We have made the decision. We are further reviewing the immigration laws. There was a stupid law brought in before which said, if you want to come and invest here and live here, you got to live here for 15 years to be able to get a citizenship. Who wants to come to Fiji and wait for 15 years if they're bringing in money, if they're bringing in their family to live here? We are reviewing that, we're going to change that. So there are a lot of bottlenecks for investment, for business, for small businesses. It will take time, but we are going to, we are working on it. The ministers are working hard in the different areas. The government is strong. We are united in terms of delivering for the people of Fiji. It's a three-party coalition. Coalition governments have their own challenges, but coalition governments can be very good as well, because it brings us together, brings the ideas, keeps us in check internally. You know, apart from having the checks and balances externally. So I think it is a good time for Fiji. Good things begin, and my view is it'll carry on. So thank you, and please feel free to say your piece, your suggestions, your questions. I'm happy to answer that. Thank you. Vinaka Bakalevu.
We also invite you, appreciate your attendance today to our school. I'm the president, and he's the president of Tavua College. I would like to share some suggestions on behalf of the Tavua Chamber of Commerce, Tavua Chamber of Commerce. First of all, I would request to continue to consider the concessions, if there are any, for Watukola gold mines. There's a major concern they have is, at the moment they are charged 10 cents per dollar levy on the HO fuel that they use for generation of power. The fuel that they use for generate the power through they have their own power supply, own generators. They're not using EFL powers. So what they're requesting is if the 10 cents levy can be waived, because that the power generation is not only to provide power for the operations of the mine, it's also to assist with the pumping of the water. So assuming the mine closes tomorrow, the state is still responsible to ensure that the mining continues. That's what happened when the mine closed last time. They continue to spend their own money to pump the water. And also what they're saying is they're also providing power to the workers and the neighbors around. We also acknowledge the support to SMEs, especially through Business Assistance Fiji. That's quite good, and we request that continues, especially for micro enterprises, micro ones, small ones who don't qualify for bank loans and all. If some kind of grants can be worked out for them. Have a reasonable rate for value-added tax. Reasonable rate. We're not saying too low or too high, but a reasonable rate of value-added tax. Of course, if you can have one rate rather than 3 different rates, 0, 9, and 15%. Of course, I'm sure you'll agree to this. Maintain the existing threshold limit, especially the low-income earners. We have seen a lot of difference after the threshold limit was increased. You could also consider, that doesn't apply to us, but you could consider the existing tax rate applied to companies listed on a stock exchange. I understand it's quite low. I also understand that the intention was to get people to buy shares, but majority of the shares are still owned by the top guys. So there's no real benefit by having 10% tax rate. It's quite low. That's it. Thank you.
And thank you for putting these things very eloquently and very clearly. I think all of them have merit. Just first one, not in the order that you ask, on VAT. So if you look at the history of VAT, from 2011 to 2016, the VAT rate was 15%. There was one single rate of 15%. And that was reduced from 15 to 9%, because some of us said, 15 was too high at that time, when the economy was doing well, when the government could have managed with the lower tax rate, when the need for revenue was perhaps not as great as, in terms of the debt level and all that. So it was 15%. So there are people who are already out there, speculating that the VAT rate is already 15%. I mean, that again is a lie, And some politicians, fueled it a bit more. So that's the first thing I want to say. There was a history of VAT. It was 15%. Then it went to 9%. After COVID, then they came with 3 rates. So now we have a 15%, a 9%, and a 0% on basic food items. What I can tell you quite openly is that there will be no 3 rates after the next budget. We are thinking right now whether to go with 1 or with 2. 0 and another rate. But 0 rate on basic food items also means that 25 to 30% of the people who are poor, who have low income, they are not the only ones that benefit. If you remove 0 VAT from food, the other 70%, including those who have very high income, they also go and buy and rice, flour and sharps and oil. They also benefit. And some calculations we've done, they actually benefit more in terms of the millions of dollars that the government actually loses by having 0 VAT rate on certain food items. In fact, if we collect all that, if we have one single rate and collect that, we could actually put all that money back into social welfare, increase social welfare, and look after people better. So right now we are looking at that option, whether to, there will be no 3 rates, that's clear. There will be either 1 rate or there will be 2 rates, but we will have to look at the calculations. We will have to see if we go for a single rate, how can we help those who need the help most. Even if we go with 2 rates, we are still likely to increase social welfare. I'm not going to reveal by how much. There are different schemes, poverty benefit scheme, social welfare for over 65. We might be thinking of looking at those who are over 70. You know, maybe they need a bigger increase than those who are between 65 to 70. There are very few people who have saved the country with distinction, whether they are farmers, whether they are businessmen, whether they are social workers. They've spent their life saving their families and the country. So those are options that we are looking at. On the listed companies, valid point, something that we are looking at. On the SMEs, small and medium enterprises, that is going to be our focus. We just signed an agreement with the European Union, a guarantee agreement where about $7 million has been made available to FDB to support small and medium enterprises, especially micro enterprises. And we believe that they are very important because majority of the jobs, if you look at the total number of jobs in the country, you separate the big companies, bulk of it is created by small and medium enterprises. So the government is going to put in particular focus in that area. We've noted the electricity point. We'll check what's happening there. As I said, not everything, what we don't want to do in this budget is to try and do everything. Because if you try and do everything and you don't think through it carefully, you bring in new laws, which used to happen. You bring a law in the morning and pass it in the afternoon without telling anyone, with no debate. And the unintended consequences can be quite disastrous, and some of it has happened. So we are going to make sure that we will inform the people on some of the things in terms of our intention, what we will do in the next budget. So if we say we are going to bring stamp duty back, we will do the assessment, we will say, all right, next year we might bring the stamp duty back. So that people have time, businesses have time to think through it, we can have more consultation. So not everything will be done in this budget, but some key revenue, expenditure, tax policies would be. Company tax, we are looking at it. We are expecting it to increase it. We don't know by how much yet. We are looking at the figures. And we have had a lot of discussion with a lot of business people. And they're quite happy to look at a percentage increase, a reasonable increase in the corporate taxes as well. And they're prepared to contribute. Thank you.
PM and Minister for Finance, Mr. Biman Prasad, and as well as our Minister, Mr. Honorable Agnidev Singh is here. On behalf of our people, we would also like to thank you, sir. I will talk on agriculture sector and the farmers. As we have a lot of consultations been done on agriculture, the production cost of 1 acre of planting is 1,260 per acre. And we want to uplift the standard of poor farmers. As we all know, the weather is not always with us in Tavua. Tavua is a very dry spell area. So we are making a request to our acting Prime Minister to provide us grant to plant the cane, and the variety should be free. If we plant the cane every year, if we are given 1 acre of grant to each grower, the production will automatically go up by around about 35 to 40 tons. And another request is the weedicide cost is so high. We also need some subsidy also there. And we are looking at the rail system. The rail system cost is lesser than the kind delivered by lorry transport. We'll save $9 in the rail system. So we want to continue with the rail system where we will save the $9 for farmers. If we transfer our cane by lorry, we are paying another $9 in that one. And as the crushing had already begun, we need our roads to be upgraded, government road from Korobau to Waikumbukumbu. And we have had, as our grower have told us, that every grower have to make the income tax return. I think the period of that have gone away. We need a grazing period for 1 month for the farmers who have not made the income tax return. And apart from this, we need some budget for the extension of water lines in Malele area, Malele number 2, number 3, Natalebu and Kandabu. And I'd like to say that as we are paying rent to state lands, that was before crown land. Now it is like state land without the title. So we need the rent not to be increased for another 10 years. So thank you, sir, for your presence with us this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate the issues that you've raised. Some are similar to farmers who raised it in Singatoka, Nandi, Lotoka, Ba as well. We had a good presentation from Rarawai Meal, some of the issues that they put out. But let me just tell you a couple of things for your comfort and for the comfort of the farmers and those who are thinking about the sugar industry. The first thing is, our government has kept the commitment of a minimum guaranteed price of $85. Cane farmers were shortchanged by about $13 million out of that 85 promised guaranteed price. The last 2 payments, we've made sure it's actually already over $85, and you still have 1 more payment. So we expect, price per ton for the last season to be actually more than $85. So that's the first thing. The second thing that we have decided, and we feel is very important, is to restore the elected Cane Growers Council. Because we've had a number of issues about cane access road, about things that farmers in their own sector face, whether it's, farm roads, access roads. There was a good, partnership, within the farmers, within the community generally, when you had elected growers councillors. The growers councillors represented the growers in that sector. If you had issues, you went to them. If they didn't do their work, next time you don't vote for them, because they were accountable to the farmers. Government bought the farmers in a way by saying, okay, we'll pay your levy, but then began to decide everything for the farmers. I mean, this is not the fault of the officers like Sunil Chaudhary. You know, they are trying their best to work hard. They don't have a structure. If he had the councillors in all the sectors, he would probably do a much better job. So we want to restore that and bring the ownership of the industry at the farm level to the farmers. And I have been saying this, and this is what this government believes, that we have to fix the farmers' concerns first. If the farmers don't produce cane, nothing works in the industry. There is no industry. So you talked about cost, you talked about cane access road, you talked about, subsidies for weedicides, pesticides, fertilizer. Sunil is telling me that there's some are subsidized. The budget was reduced as well. Yeah. So we are going to look at some of those issues, but be assured that the Minister for Sugar, of course, the government as a whole, we are concerned about what's happening in the sugar industry, and we may not be able to put everything back. Not everything will be included in the budget, but there will be enough in the budget, whether it's a price, whether it's a subsidy, whether it's support for cane access road, whether it's for cane planting, that should give enough confidence to the farmers to increase production, because that's where our focus will be. From 3.2 million tons in 2006 down to 1.7, it's a significant decline. I've seen infrastructure around the mills. It's quite sad, but there is hope. That's all I can say. But thank you very much for raising, and thank you for farming. Thank you for doing that. You're not doing it only for yourself. You're doing it for the whole country, for the whole community, and we appreciate that. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Paras Ram Reddy. I'm also a farmer living in Elandro. Thank you, sir, for coming today and giving us time to voice our concerns. I would like to point out at this point that two of the largest contributors of foreign exchange in Tavua are in Tavua. One is Fiji Water and gold mine, Batukala gold mine. Unfortunately, last year there was no economic consultation in this area. A lot of people work in these companies, a lot of farmers, sugarcane farmers, and working in the towns and other companies. We were not consulted last year for any kind of a feedback into the economy by the economic minister, previous government. So thank you for providing us with this opportunity this time. I would like to, some of the things you have already mentioned, is infrastructure, like the water authority, road conditions, and these areas had funding before. Actually, everybody is saying the previous government spent too much money. Obviously they did, but there was no accountability. How the money was spent, where it went, where the roads were handed out for contracts were handed to people who were good, skilled contractors, that they improved the road for the long haul. Some of the road contractors came in, did an excellent job, and others came in just what we say in Hindi, lipu poto, lip pot ke chale gaye. But look, paisa mil gaya. Even I'm an advisory councillor. Even upon complaining, there was nothing done. So that is where the problem lies, in accountability, whether it's in the government sector or private sector, or when it comes to farmers as well. Because in the days when I was a high school student at this school, my father was a cane farmer. We never got any grant. We were pushing over 3 million tons of cane with no grant at all. How did that happen? So when it comes to even, cane access roads, it's not only farmers who live on that cane access road. There are other people who are living there and working in factories and towns. So when the budget goes big on the sugar industry for farmers' cane access road, well, there are other people benefiting from that too. So I think this is a team effort that should be put together, that people do some contribution in these areas, for example, road, the cane access roads. I have voiced this opinion before. I know for some people it's not a very thing that they want to hear, but I think it's a practical matter. We have to put our money in a better place, in a better use, that everybody benefits from it. And as far as I want to say it again, there is no accountability whatsoever. You look at your government ministries in the previous years, where are the audited reports? How many years behind they are in providing audited reports? And these reports, the older they get, they're harder to get accountability. So, as far as the road and road conditions concerned in Tavua in general, in all areas, they are in dire need of repair. Elandro and Balata and Corobao roads in particular become flooded. During the flood season, they are the waterways, the Elandro road and the Balata and Corobao roads. And because the river needs dredging, the field drains needs help from the waterways, Ministry of Waterways. I have brought in Ministry of Waterways people. They stand there and tell them that's not their responsibility. I talked to the FSC. Well, there's about 5,000 or 6,000 tons of cane that can be raised in Elandro and Corobao and Balata area that are waterlogged areas where the cane won't grow anymore. So these are some issues where not one person, one stakeholder needs to get together. The FSC, the Grain Growers Council, the government, the Ministry of Waterways need to come in together and share the responsibility so that we clean up the drainage problem we have. What drainage problem contributes to is students not being able to go to school. The workers cannot come to work. The elderly people cannot seek health services during rainy seasons. So these are issues, we do it over and over, it never gets fixed. So please, I urge you to impress on your departments and also all the stakeholders that accountability is where the problem is. Money is there. We need to use it in a responsible way. Thank you for the opportunity.
Well, thank you. I think you raised some important issues which I could spend the next 2 hours talking about, and that's accountability and transparency and value for money. I mean, you're absolutely right. You hit the nail on the head by saying that millions of dollars were spent on FRA, millions of dollars have been spent elsewhere. I don't want to go back and talk about it because we have talked about some of those wastages. Whether you talk about $400 million giveaways to audiovisual and film industry, whether you talk about 125 million for Walesi, whether you talk about Gobind Park, whether you talk about swimming pool, whether you talk about Lambasa campus, FRA almost used 100% of their budget in 6 months. When we came into government in December, on the 24th of December, we found out that basically FRA had used almost 100% of their budget. Not only that, they owed money to the contractors. So we gave more money through identifying the funds from the existing budget. So what we are doing now is we will be allocating money to FRA again, but we are also creating PWD. We want to bring back a structure which will look at specifically our rural roads. You're right, you talked about partnership with Growers Council, Sugarcane Growers Fund, Ministry of Sugar, Waterways. We had some of these partnerships before. There was this idea of a 1/3, 2/3. Used to work, there used to be road committees, and things used to get fixed quite amicably, and people felt that they were part of it. So one of the things that I didn't talk about as part of our fiscal consolidation strategy is to cut wastage. Government, for example, has decided in the last cabinet that we will cut significantly the allowances for the Prime Minister and the ministers traveling overseas. It may save, few $1 million, but it's an indication of what the government intends to do. Imagine, if we didn't waste those millions of dollars or billions, over the last 10, 15 years, what would we have? A good Tavua hospital, a good bar hospital, good roads, good water. These are infrastructure that are forgone because the budget is not unlimited. So what we will do in this budget is to take a very careful, detailed look at where we should give priority, what needs to be done first. And that's why I said we will not be able to do everything tomorrow because we need to work out. So transparency and accountability, and that's why we are telling the people quite openly, even how many times in the last 15 years you've had a minister say, this is the amount that we've used for a conference at Sofitel or Intercontinental. We are doing that now. If we're allocating 500,000, we're saying this is the budget. This is what we will use so that the people know. But thank you for raising that.
Yes, one of the bigger issues is the land issues in our area also. Some of these transfers, when it comes to, say for example, a husband and wife owns a piece of land. The wife never has a name on the sugarcane contract, neither on the rental agreement with the government. So what happens is the husband dies, she has to wait for years for probate to come through and the cane contract transferred under her name so she can draw money from FSC. So this is one of the issues that's holding back our cane production. There are a lot of land tied up in transfer and estates and so forth that are not available for production. The other thing I want to, previous government emphasized on this, I would like to see this government go even further, introducing more power, empowering more women into the industry, all kinds of industry. We are sending a lot of our product, raw product that people send by the roadside here, pineapples, vegetables, and things like that. We can establish, fund small factories. The government can do a public enterprise where these vegetables can be processed, these farmers can go back to farming instead of sitting in the roadside, and then this gets people away, that gets people away from welfare, depending on welfare. There is a different kind of esteem, self-esteem you get when you earn the money, whether through working in a small factory or whatever.
I think we understand all that, for us. And I take your point. I mean, women empowerment, I think sometimes they are better managers. They do better than a lot of men, So I take that point very carefully. The Growers Council, provides advice on will and all that. I think sometimes it's just a matter of, advice to a lot of farmers, like if you don't have a will, if you have a will, then it's easier. If a farmer says, okay, a will says if I die, it goes to my wife or my son or whatever, then it's easier. And Growers Council, I think, does provide that service. But that's why we need a little bit more education. And that's why I'm saying that if we have elected councillors, if we have growers representatives in each sectors, a lot of these things can channel to the Growers Council, to the officials, and there could be a communication channel to help. Right now, in fact, one of the reasons why the sugar industry is in the state where it is because we got rid of the participation of the farmers in the decision-making machinery was completely abolished. I mean, that was probably one of the most stupid decisions ever taken by whoever took it. I don't want to get into those details, but it actually destroyed that partnership, that participation of the people in the industry. So we will bring that back.
हम मतनी में से सेटलमेंट के है हम लोग के आरएस क्रॉसिंग पुल टूट गए है और उसके पीछे 3000 टन गन्ना भी है और गन्ना हम लोग निकाले के 6 महीना हो गए हिगिंस आगे देख ली से मिनिस्टर सुगा देख ली से अभी तक कुछ नहीं करी से और हम लोग के सोमवार से गन्ना काटेंगे और उसके पीछे 3000 टन गन्ना रास्ता निकली।
कब टूटा रहा है? 6 महीना पहले?
6 महीना ऊपर
कौन जी भाई गए पूरा?
ना आधा टूटा है फिर लोरी मोटर बस भी सब रुक गए लड़कन स्कूल लेने जावे तो पैदल जावे।
तो अभी कैसे आवे? दूसरा रास्ता?
हाँ पर गन्ना नहीं निकली है वो रास्ता जो लंबा रास्ता है वो $19 लोरी ले है वैसे $16 ले है तो ओवर कॉस्ट है किसान के वो।
अच्छा हम लोग
बाईपास रास्ता है मतनी वाई टू बड़ाता।
हाँ
अगर आपके मौका है तो आप देख लेना कौन रकम हालत है रास्ता के।
बाईपास से नहीं काम बनी अभी?
ना पुल टूटा है आरएस क्रॉसिंग।
ओके
और
अच्छा
आपको
हम लोग
मौका मिली तो आप वैसे घूम लेना।
अच्छा बिहान तो नहीं बन पाई? हाँ
तो वही जगह है कि गन्ना रुका है किसान के भी है।
अच्छा
कटी नहीं
ठीक है हम लोग
ऐसा
व्यापार
अवस्था
ऐसे
चले अवस्था कहेंगे।
ठीक है।
First of all, I'd like to congratulate to you, sir, and your government. My name is Biman Prasad. I have two, in fact, suggestions if you can put down in your budget. My first one is before the previous government, before you used to have a building grant. See, all this building has been built by government, even though the management has their own money, fundraising and the other thing. But the building grant has been stopped from the previous last 16 years. We didn't receive any building grant. We do receive levy. The levy is for only maintenance, but not for new structure. Like I have wooden block here. I want to remove that wooden block, but we do not have that money to remove that one. At least we need some money, extra money, 200,000 to repair that one. But like I said, before the government give building grant, but they have stopped. What I suggest, if your government start giving building grant, I'm not saying 200,000 or whatever, 30,000, whatever, to build new buildings. Like we have started this kindergarten school. We have to build that kindergarten because we haven't got money. So what was the purpose that we have quotas, teachers' quotas. On that teachers' quotas, we have to remove the teacher to build kindergarten in that house. After that year, the number has increased, so we have to put another 15,000, but we haven't got any grant of building grant, so even though that time we can't do fundraising. Now we have allowed to have a fundraising, but at least the government should give this new structure for building grant. The other issue is say that we Tavua Hospital. See, Tavua Hospital is good, but there is a lack of convenience, public convenience. There is no public convenience in Tavua Hospital. People coming from right Nandari Batu, right interior from code number 1, Kunkumbu, there is no public convenience in Tavua Hospital. So I urge you say that if you can put in this in your budget to make convenience for Tavua people.
On the convenience, I can tell you I'm asking the staff now to have it fixed before the budget, if it is possible, because it is quite disturbing to hear that you have a public hospital and you don't have public convenience. It's Is it true that there is no convenience there?
No, there is no public convenience. The convenience was inside, and now that has become an emergency room. When the patients are still using it, lying on the bed, the public, they have to go through that to use that. So the board of business, we are looking into that. We're working with the.
Okay, from here I want to go and have a quick look at it and see whether we can.
We have identified the space.
Yeah, do something urgently. You know, that's quite sad. But on your other point, you see, that was another stupid decision that we had to contend with. We had this great partnership between the government, the community, the school management. School managements used to, have their own fundraising activities to supplement what the government was doing. There was this community partnership. Annual bazaars used to be the most looked forward activity by parents, teachers, school students. That was all broken, taken away. And somebody wanted to dictate, and so they didn't give you money, plus they didn't allow you to raise funds. So we will do both. We will allow you to raise funds. You can start your bazaars and do whatever you want to do. We will also look at how we can build that support within the grant that the government gives per student to the schools, and whether there is an element of capital expenditure based on specific projects that schools or the Ministry of Education submits. But a fair point. Thank you.
First of all, I would like to congratulate you for your appointment as acting Prime Minister on behalf of Mr. Rambuka. I'll just like to assist you on two issues being mentioned by Mr. Prasad. One is on building grant. There is none, sir. But you can request for a building if you want to build for next year through assets and monetary unit. I think Mr. Agnido knows this. But remember, you are not the only one applying. There are other schools that will be applying. That is for building grant. Mr. Prasad also mentioned about this public toilet in Tavua Hospital. I am the chairman of Tavua Hospital Board. We have one, but because of overcrowding for the last several years, we have converted the room that is beside the public toilet to be for patients, emergency patients. And that is one of our projects. Mr. Ragul is also in the Board of Visitors. We are requesting Tavua people to be patient. We have been liaising with the Honorable Minister of Health to assist us in building a public toilet. Mr. Parasaram was mentioning about road conditions. Most of the road conditions in Fiji are bad. But sir, if an agreement to be made by these subcontractors, if that can be one of their social responsibility during disasters like rainy weather, if they can immediately be part and parcel of the team to make not fix roads, but for temporary before PWD comes on board. The other issue on the PALM scheme to the Honorable Minister for Labour and Employment. A lot of it have gone to Australia. There is big remittances to the government. My question is whether there is follow-up on these people that are going abroad, because there's a lot of family breakup. Contract are not honored by those people from overseas. If there's a special mission to follow up on these people going overseas under the PALM scheme.
Thank you very much for that question, sir. Let me first of all say that
the palm scheme began in 2015-16, but it really escalated in 2021-2022. That is when a large number of our workers started going, and we have something like 4,000 plus workers in Australia. Straight after taking over this portfolio, I visited Australia. I visited their workers at most of the sites, and we have issues with their accommodation. We have issues with the other, decent conditions, minimum standards that have to be followed, that have to be adhered to. We have had meetings with the employers. We have had meetings with the government minister for labor there. We have had meetings with the unions that look after workers and our diaspora as well. The Australian government had allocated, funds for us to appoint a liaison officer in Australia in 2021. And that liaison officer would be directly dealing with all the concerns of the workers. And he would be based there at our High Commission in Canberra. Unfortunately, the appointment was not done. It was only when we visited them and had discussions with the employment minister there, we came to learn that there was a position that the Australian government was prepared to pay for. And 2 years down, we hadn't made that appointment. So now, we have advertised the liaison officer's position, and in another week, it should be finalized, and that liaison officer will be based in our High Commission. There is going to be a toll-free line. I must thank the Finance Minister that the Finance Ministry has agreed that we have that provision where all workers will be able to call our embassy and register their concerns to be straight away looked into and resolved. Last 2 weeks ago, one employer came and we had 40 workers who signed the contracts. We questioned that employer about the accommodation, and the employer said they were still organizing the accommodation. We said, hold on, we will not send our workers until you have arranged the accommodation, and our High Commission people have gone and seen and approved and told us. So that is what we are doing now, to ensure that our workers are well looked after, minimum standards are adhered to, and they enjoy good working conditions. We have just had a meeting with the Australian Charge d'Affaires a few days ago, just this last week. And the Australian government in the last budget, just 3 weeks ago, has allocated additional funds to look after the welfare of all workers, to all workers, all PALM scheme workers who are in Australia. We are going to appoint another liaison officer who is going to look after the northern part of Australia, which is going to be done in the near future. So, as I said, the scheme started much earlier, but in the last 2 years, the number has boomed. And we really have to make sure that now that such a large number of workers are there, they are treated the way they should be treated. And we are looking after that with the Australian government, as well as the unions, as well as the employers. We have terminated a couple of employers because they were not adhering to the minimum standards. So we have become very strict now, Turanga. We have about 20,000 applications, let me tell you that, from our citizens wishing to work there. And right now we are processing the applications from 2021. We still got 2022 and 2023. So sometimes people complain that they have applied, but they are not getting the opportunity to go. We have to make sure that we come in the order of the applications chronologically. So you have to bear with us. And as they will ask for more workers, we'll make sure that we provide workers, but the minimum standards are met. Thank you.
So, Mike, I just want to say something about EFL. There's one project in Batukola Back Road which has been idle for 2 years and nothing has been done. as Mr. Praveen had said about the levy of 10 cents for the fuel, we are paying Vatkola Power, Emperor Power, generating cost. It's a very heavy burden on the consumers. We are using the Vatkola Power. So previous government, they have erected the post, the line is on, but nothing has been done till now. And another thing, the bar back road, it has been neglected for last 15 or 20 years. Nothing has been done. We are paying about $22 per ton to Rarawai from Vatkola coming right to Tavua and this. I have raised this issue to FRI, but there's nothing has been done. If you can check, because it's only 14 miles from Vatkola to Ba, it will be better for the farmers. We are maybe about 20 to 22,000 tons of cane has been in that area. I visited last week. I went to Ba, but I could not go. My car was about to get damaged. The road is just filthy, Yeah.
Thank you, Kamal. I just wanted to say that we also want to, as a concluding statement, we want to improve our governance at the community level, starting from everything at the government level, boards. I mean, we found when we came into government that everything was politicized, from the advisory councillors to board members to people at the top, engaging in petty politics. We had issues about FSC board, decisions that they made, and look at, where FSC is today. And what we are expecting, and we are not going to tolerate board members, engaging in petty politics, dividing people at the community level. We want them to concentrate on governing for what they are there, working for the people, working for the organization. So that's why we are going to have elected town councils, we're going to have elected growers councils, and we will make sure that our advisory councillors and those who sit on boards, whether they sit on FSC board or any other board, that they set certain standards. Their job is to look after the interest of the organization and not go out there in the community and engage in and we as a government, we want to make sure that people who are there, when the next government comes in, they have served as loyal people to the interest of those organizations. We know there are people who were with the previous government in different ways. We have not come there and removed all of them. We have taken a different view. But we expect the people who are on boards, on councils, on different organizations to behave, to work for the interest of our people. So that's the governance thing that we are looking at. And because that brings accountability, that brings truth and honesty in what they do. And for the sugarcane farmers, I want to assure you that we are going to make sure that they are represented well. Because as I said, if the farmers don't exist, if the farmers don't produce, we are not going to have a sugar industry. Because I know there are a lot of farmers here. On the budget, as I said, thank you for giving us a lot of good ideas. A lot of it has been raised elsewhere, and we are going to take all that into account. But as I said, not everything will or could be done, but you can expect a budget that will tread a fine balance and make sure that it sets a foundation for future budgets and future growth and prosperity in the economy. So thank you. I appreciate your time Nakaba Kelebu, Dhanyawad and Shukriya.